Hi, Steven.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Steven.
Getting busy, aren't we?
Yes.
Oh my goodness graciousness. So I just saw an email come in. I think you probably had received it 2:54 p.m. This is the listings for your
Yeah,
consideration. So
I
these would
received
be
that.
these would be the new listings that have come up that meet the criteria of 100 days on the market, right?
Right.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a secondary search because we're limited to 1,000 listings per, I
For
guess,
search.
for search criteria. And I think I'm going to start capturing the other counties in California for Southern California, right?
Mhm.
And so I mean, obviously, we're playing catch up at the moment as far as the number of leads we have to, send out email notifications about our business model. But eventually, you're going to get caught up, and then when you do get caught up, I want to make sure that we have enough um, influx of leads through the entire state of California that meet this criteria. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Cool,
Yeah, makes sense.
cool, cool, cool.
So with these leads that I am receiving, I'm going to send an email, like the one that
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
But I'm
Yep.
going to check first if I already sent it
Yeah, just make
like
sure you're
that.
not duplicating your
No
efforts.
duplicating. Yeah.
Yeah, because we just kind of started this off, and I pulled a few lists, and then I started sending out emails, and now you're sending out emails. It's okay if we send out accidentally some duplications, right?
Yeah. Because
But
some of the agents have multiple listings.
yes,
So sometimes what I do is when I send to one
oh,
list with their email because they get upset.
that's I mean, real
Or
estate real estate agents are an interesting breed of people, and a lot of them have very big egos. So if you're able to pet their egos and compliment them, they'll feel very good about the
okay.
interaction, right? So, and again, their incentive or their intent is to sell the listing and get a commission check. And that's our
Got it.
goal, to basically get to that point. Anyways, it's 1 minute after the hour. Um, what I want you to do, if you could send me a calendar reminder and put this on my calendar on Wednesdays,
Mhm. Wednesday.
either first thing in the morning or maybe later in the day. I want to post an invitation on the multifamily groups that I belong to, and begin
Yeah.
advertising this call so we can attract a greater attendance.
Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday
First thing in
probably.
the morning, 8.
I mean, it really doesn't matter when, but I just want to have like a block of time set aside for me to put a few posts out there the day before, and so
Okay.
people can see that this is available to them, and so we can kind of attract more people to this call
I
outside
think
of my
Wednesdays.
first million.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
just kind of bring up the attendance some. Anyways, I see Nick and Manpreet have joined. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening, Stephen and everyone.
Good
How are you,
afternoon.
Manpreet?
I'm good, Stephen. How about yourself?
Doing glorious, working on another hotel to multifamily conversion in Gainesville, Florida. Seems that we have something that's going to turn out to be a deal. Got a lot of interested parties, and we're now just putting together the GP team. Had a general contractor out there today walking the project so we can shore up the CapEx for the conversion. And yeah, really exciting. And then we're looking at something else in Orlando. And I think we have 2 hotels to review. So Christina, if you want to throw up the pitch decks for today's presentation, we'll jump right into it. How's things with you, Manpreet?
Things are good. Things are good. Thanks for asking, Stephen, and congratulations on your, this Florida deal that is kind of getting towards the final stages. Nick, I saw your email coming in. I just replied back this morning as well. I'm not sure if the time was like your Pacific time or my Eastern time.
I would be Pacific.
Pacific?
Yeah. Did I say 10:30 or no, I said between 8:30 and 11:30, right?
No, I think so. Say in the email. You said 8:30 to 11:30.
Yeah. Do you want to do maybe like 8:30 or 9 o'clock?
Sure. Your time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
All right, let's jump into it. First property that we're looking at, and I have a few that are coming up in Pensacola, Florida, which is, in my humble opinion, an emerging market of the Floridian area. It is close to the naval base, so it does have a strong military presence and seems to be a great place to live, and seeing a lot of growth in that area. So this is initially certainly something of interest. Let's go ahead and go into the next slide. And let's check out the property summary. So this is it's branded as Suburban Studios, so they do have kitchenettes. Opened in 1999, so certainly a little newer than what we are used to looking at, which when I see anything past, say, 95, my first gut reaction is they're probably going to be asking a pretty penny for the asset. And I think this is certainly the case because they did do a full renovation in 2021. 129 rooms. It's a three-story interior corridor. Has some meeting space. And it looks like it is on a very small patch of land, 0.10. Parking spaces do meet the minimum requirement, which is great. So on the surface, looking good so far. Let's go ahead and jump into the next slide. Here are the pictures. Looks like, again, a nice asset. It's fenced. Overall looks like it's in great condition. Landscaping looks clean. Again, recently renovated, 2021. Let's go ahead and check out the next slide. Got an interior laundromat. Hey, that gym just looks just like Lifetime Fitness, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah. That's why we're Lifetime Athletic now.
Right. It has the towel service too, just like Lifetime.
Exactly.
Right. So gazebo, looks like it's in great shape, does have a pool. So in my opinion, meets the minimum requirements for amenities. Next slide. And here are some pictures of the interior units. Open floor plan. Looks like we have an office type scenario set up right in front of the kitchen. I would probably remove that table and kick out to open up the kitchen further. Looks like a basic kitchen design with a hot plates scenario, and with microwave. I don't see, oh, there's a refrigerator. I see the refrigerator. PTAC looks like it's in good shape. But certainly change out the floors and put in LVT. Next slide. Let's check out the location. So good news, it looks like it's near residential. I'm not sure what those vacant lots are to the west, the southwest, but located on 292, which is a high traffic area, and directly across the street looks like there's a golf course. So from the surface, or in this case from 10,000 feet above, looks pretty good. Next slide. Let's check out the analytics. Exit price per door is low at 150K. And when I say low, I'm assuming because this is a newer asset, their purchase price per key is going to be on the higher side, which does not leave much for margin. Studio rents are low at 858. So certainly would be challenging to make this deal pencil, just looking at the back of the napkin underwriting here. Population growth is what I would consider the minimum threshold at 1%. Yeah, and so let's jump into the underwriting. Before we do so, here are the rent comparables. So let's see here. Interesting, they're getting $1,650 for 312 square foot of place. This is A, which is on the water, and our subject property is also somewhat on the water. So, and then the other studio is much larger. It's definitely inland, and that's getting $1.77 a square foot. So there's a big variance between those two rents. So we'd have to do some additional diving into this. But again, next to a naval base and close to the water. So there's some potential. Next slide. And here is the underwriting. And again, we did put in an offer here. The seller is asking for 9.5. And in my opinion, I think, you know, we need to be in around 7 million. With that being said, because of the unit interiors already having kitchenettes, our CapEx per key is around 15,000, which in most cases, if there is no kitchenette, that number is usually like 2x that number. It does not have sprinklers, so we definitely penciled in the sprinklers. And as far as the rent goes, I think we can achieve that number of $3.53 a square foot based upon those two rent comparables, but certainly gives us a strike price of about 7 million, and that's what we submitted an LOI for. Any questions on this particular opportunity?
Negative, Stephen. I don't.
All right. Let's jump into the next one. And so we, the property in Gainesville is also a Stayable Suites product. And this would be another similar opportunity in Orlando. Looks like we have some roof damage possibly to the portico on the left side. I'm not sure where that originated from. My assumption would be based upon that planter down below being just gravel and dirt. They probably had some trees there, similar to the palms they have in the center. And probably those trees probably struck the roof line during a recent storm, and those trees were removed. So we do have some damage that we can see in this picture. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And here is the property summary, opened in 1969. Let's see, 170 keys, a 1-story, interior corridor, 1-story. We don't see that very often. Typically we'll see multiple floors, but in this case, it's all on 1-story. Large parcel here at 4.5 acres, and certainly has enough parking at almost 1.5 parking spaces per hotel room. Let's go ahead and check out the next slide. And all right, so even though it says it's a 1-story, it looks like we have a 2-story situation there in that left picture. I wonder what that's pertaining to. But it does look like maybe it's not in operation, but something that we have to further confirm. Next slide. Interesting. So even as though it says a 1-story, it does not appear to be a 1-story. It looks like a 2-story exterior corridor with a pool in the center. Yeah, looks like a good opportunity from this picture. Great frontage on a heavy traveled road. Looks like we have a body of water in the northeast part of the property. And I got a car dealership across the street. So certainly good potential there. Let's go ahead and check out the next slide and look at the analytics. Before we do that, oh, so it's Lake Roger. Okay, so the body of water is actually a lake. And we got some residential off to the west part of that lake. And let's see, just kind of glancing around, looking at the, okay, so there's an auto mall across the street. And let's see here, Martin Anderson Beach Line Expressway, which is a toll road. So it looks like it's in a great location of Orlando. Next slide. And let's check out the analytics. So population growth is even less than we just looked at. So kind of almost below the threshold. Rents are decent. And the exit price per door on the multifamily is where I consider kind of like a minimum threshold of about 175 a door. So looking good so far. Next slide. Let's check out those rent comparables. So yeah, we're renting somewhere in the mid-3s per square foot. So certainly some good numbers there. Looking at this map, we see that the Orlando airport is fairly close. We've got a Costco in the area. Certainly a booming little location, but we know Orlando is going to be a great destination for these types of conversions. Next slide. Let's check out the underwriting. And so the whisper price at 10.5 does not pencil. Christina, do you know where this potentially penciled at?
Even I tried, even at does not pencil.
You're breaking up. What was that one more time? So even
Yeah,
at 5 million.
Yeah, five, even at 3 million, it doesn't pencil.
Interesting.
This is right, 5 million. Yeah.
Even with 170 doors, huh? Now, what if we were to bump the rents to $3.50? Do you have the underwriting? You want to pull that
Yes.
up? Let's see if we can play with the underwriting a little bit. We'll do a little live demo on the underwriting and how we kind of determine whether or not it's an asset worth pursuing, since we have a little time. All right, so let's boost the rent up to go to the left, change the rate to $12.50. check out the summary. Interesting. Go back to the inputs. All right. And go back to the analytics really quick. I want to see what the rent growth is on the analytics. Yeah, you want to scroll down to the rent growth. Scroll down. Keep on going. Keep on going. Okay, where we go? We're getting close. So market unit rent growth looks like it's, scroll down a little bit. And so looking like we're somewhere at the 7.5%. If you look at the bottom left quadrant where it says market rent per unit and rent growth, depending on what part of Orlando you're in, you can see, South Orlando, you can see South Orlando effective rent, et cetera, et cetera. Our particular property, or the property effective rent, is on the lower side, but is showing some pretty significant growths, somewhere in the 7. Let's go back to the underwriting really quick. Let's change the residential rent growth, line 47, column G, to 7.5%. All right, and let's check out go to the summary. Summary tab. All right, we're getting closer. What is that as far as the asking price? Where we have for the asking price?
10.5. Let's
change that 10.5 to, let's change that to 8 million. Go to the summary tab. There we go. Let's submit an LOI for 8 million.
8 million. Okay.
We don't have any impact fees. Do you know what the impact fees
Not
are?
yet.
In Orlando?
In Orlando,
Scroll up.
I will, but this underwriting doesn't have impact yet.
Yeah, scroll up. Take off the pref reserve, put that to 0. And then check out the summary tab. Okay, let's put in an offer for 8 million.
Okay.
And then let's go to the impact fees really quick. It was what, 170 doors. And I think the impact fees are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5K. So let's put the impact fee for 850,000. Let's just put a placeholder there. And then go to column K, line 83, 84, column K, 183.
183.
183. You were right there. I don't know why you're moving. Column K, 183. Yep, let's change 10% to 5%. And then change the 20% to 10%. All right, let's go to the summary tab. Okay, yeah, let's put in an offer for 8 million.
8 million. Okay.
And I think those are the two that we have for review today, correct?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you saw some real live underwriting. We kind of tailing the numbers a little bit. I think we can achieve those rents. Let's go to the underwriting one more time and let's stress the rent a little bit, Christina, and put in, rather than 1250, let's put 1150.
11.
So you can cancel out of that, go to the input tab, go to rents, and then put the rent in at 1150. 1150. Let's just check the summary tab. Yeah, that's probably about as stressed as I want to take it right now. But yeah, let's put in an offer for 8 million.
For 8 million. Okay.
You can go ahead and save that underwriting. All right, Nick, do you have some retail to self-storage conversions you want to address for today?
Absolutely. Christina, can you email me the 31700 Grape Street? The file and follow-up boss would not open, but I do have the first property for today's review. And then by the time I'm done with this, I'll be able to open up the other one. Stephen, I was preparing for my portion of the presentation, but I did want to ask, were the rents pulled directly from Rentometer?
They were pulled directly from Rentometer.
One thing that Dan and I had to do on the Ricci Towers project was go into the market and look at the rental comps directly from the apartments websites. And we got a more accurate rendering of those comps. Not that Rentometer isn't 100% accurate, but we found a slight variation, which actually helped the penciling. So if you're struggling a little bit, we can go back and reassess and make sure that those are 100% accurate, or maybe pull the 4 closest like for like comps and potentially get like a slightly elevated cost per square footage.
Excellent. And I would appreciate you don't flex your biceps during the course of this presentation.
Oh, you'll know when I'm flexing them.
I see that arms up in the air.
Oh yeah. Well,
Flexing
that's
the guns. Flexing the guns.
That's how we flip these properties.
That's right. Literally, we pick them up and we flip them.
Exactly.
Love it.
All right.
So Nick, I got a question for you. So how much of a variation in the market rents did you notice between Rentometer and apartments.com?
I want to say it was between 20 and 30 cents a square foot for the average rents. So Rentometer can pull a ton of different properties. In this case, for the Ricci Towers project, there's probably about 20 to 25 different apartments or comps that we looked at, but they'll vary from like class C, B, and A. So what I did is we looked at the class B plus properties, because that's what Ricci Towers to be converted to. So in Stephen's case, I'd look at that property and what's probably the closest like for like once it's converted, and identify the closest apartments to that subject property, and then just pull that directly from their website to assess. And then we just put in a spreadsheet, average it out for a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. In this case, I think we just have to do studios. So it's pretty easy. But if you got an additional 20 cents a square foot, times the total square footage of the building, you're talking thousands of dollars a month in additional revenue, which would help really adjust that NOI and the returns on the property, allowing it to pencil better. And then you multiply that by the rent growth that we're looking at from the analytics, and it can have a pretty profound effect on how much revenue is generated. Got it. Yeah, a lot of times, we'll see properties where it's like, man, on the surface, the layout of it is ideal. There's ideal parking ratio. It's in good condition. The room sizes are great. The rents are somewhat strong. Like we know that there should be a deal here. And that's where we'll really pressure test each of the inputs to see like, okay, is there anything else I can squeeze from this conservatively with data to support it to make a case and help underwrite it more accurately?
So when you were looking at like for like comps, like looking at similar amenities, square footage of the units, layout, parking space.
Precisely. So like the first and biggest thing is location, because the closer it is to the asset, the better. Once you start going outside of maybe like a 3-4 mile radius, you can get a drastic shift. In the example of Ricci Towers, we were in Dallas, 6 miles outside of downtown, the historic district. Inside of Dallas, if we were 5 miles away, you're going to see an extra $1 per square foot just because it's a very coveted area. You're seeing more of these Class A high rises, which is what we were building. But we knew that using that as an assumption would be inaccurate because while it wasn't a significant distance away, it was enough to change what you would see for a going rate. Just like you could be in an affluent city and several miles down the road, you go into a new zip code or jurisdiction, and it's a drastically different story. You know, Steve and I have talked about, we live in Roseville, California, just down the road of Citrus Heights. They border one another, but you're going to see a 1-bedroom apartment go for $1,600 in Citrus Heights, where it might be $2,200-$2,300 in Roseville. And then to your point, yes, what amenities are offered, how nice, you know, the build out is as far as countertops, floors, appliances, things of that nature. So a superficial scrub of it will be good enough because we can then model the CapEx towards that. We put a pretty lofty amount of money into the CapEx for the interior unit conversions as it stands. So it really just comes down to location and just verifying that the rates from Rentometer are as accurate as like pulling directly from that website of the apartment or lease up. Great question.
Well, thank you for that elaborate response over there, Nick.
Yeah. And
Hey,
you'll
guys.
see.
Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Someone else have some?
Yeah, I'm Keshav. Just wanted to introduce myself. I've met Steven before, but I do hotel conversions as well, based in the Southeast. Figured this might be a cool place to meet some other people doing conversions too. So decided
Oh, that's a great call.
start joining this call once a week, exchange
Yeah.
some ideas.
Well, you get to see a couple different avenues, the hospitality multifamily, the retail to self-storage, and then, you know, most recently we dove into office multifamily. So,
Yep.
you know, kind of the 3 cutting edge conversion plays that have a lucrative value add.
Yeah.
And you can get at a very low cost per square footage because of the pressure on hospitality from like Airbnb, VRBO, to, you know, the pressure on retail as well as office right now. So you're able to make money on the buy, purchasing the asset at a very advantageous price, and then elevate it to its highest and best use because a similar business model going in there would not be successful when the original one didn't succeed. So by being,
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's our entire thesis. So
Exactly. And that's what we strive to do. And why we do value add self-storage, we do value add multifamily. There's still deals to be had. They tend not to have the same returns. And sometimes half. And there's a lot more competition because a lot of people are thinking traditionally, okay, I'm just going to stick in this lane that's tried and true. But it's kind of that progressive thinking that allows for us to find better deals, attract more investors, et cetera.
no, that makes a lot of sense.
We'll look forward to seeing you on these calls.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
Head today. The first one we're looking at today is a Lowe's. It's 1171 West Dillon Road in Louisville, Colorado. So we've taken a look at a lot of vacant Kmart's, other big box retailers. The 2 today that we're going to look at, both Lowe's and Walmart, are a little bit a step above that. These can represent more complexity in terms of projects. Obviously, a higher cost per square footage, just because they tend to be in a better area with a lot of traffic for those institutions to originally exist. The reason why both these assets are on the market right now is not because the business failed, but rather both businesses, Lowe's and Walmart, relocated within the same city to upgrade their facility, basically going from a smaller box to a larger box with expansion, the growth of population. So this kind of represents a unique opportunity because we have a pristine building that is now vacant with a reasonable size footprint that we can go out and acquire and then convert. So don't see these often. They come with their own complexity and challenges, particularly the price and the rezoning ability from the city because of the location of them. But they have a huge upside when they do work. A large part of that's driven by just the lot size itself. So we'll dive into that. Taking a look at the property summary here, built in 96, 137,000 square feet. So a large building, but not overly large. We can see some of these north of 200, 250,000 for, existing Lowe's, some of their super centers. Built out of reinforced concrete and sitting on 13.4 acres. So that's something that will help bolster the underwriting for this. Kind of looking at the important KPIs here, been on the market just over a year. It is saturated by our definition for everyone who normally tunes into these calls, we look at 8 square foot per capita as kind of a saturated market. And that's, market specific. There's places in Texas and Florida where they're in the teens, 14, 16, 17 square foot per capita. We don't want to find ourselves in one of those situations. But there are opportunities where we do see saturation at these numbers 8 and 10 respectively, and there's still opportunity. Part of our insight to that would be the market rental rates, which we'll dive into in the underwriting. The other thing I've pictured here is the percentage of climate controlled in that market at 0.5%. So that tells me that the product that we can offer will be less saturated versus what that raw square foot per capita shows, which is taking in both climate controlled and non-climate controlled.
Generally speaking, sorry, what's the average square foot per capita that's attractive if you're penciling?
National average is in the 6s. But you got to go state by state. So Colorado's 7.47, but that can also be a misnomer. So if we're below 7.47, we know we're below the state's average. But California is a good example where you have these huge, dense urban population cities and also these immense rural towns. So California is somewhere on like a 5.4, which is not really accurate because you will see a greater square foot per capita because there is more multifamily, there are more renters. So that blended rate on a large area tends to have less accuracy. So beyond the state average, we'll look at things such as rental rates. So are they going up, suggesting increased demand? Are they strong to begin with? And then also just calling competitors to see, is there a waiting list? Yep.
And so is there like a magic number where if it's a specific ratio, square foot to capita, there's like a quick absorption that you guys look at, or is it just
generally anything under 8?
Okay, so this is a little, I guess, challenging unless it's climate controlled. And since the MEP is already available in Lowe's for a climate controlled facility, that would make the most logical sense.
Yep, because it's one enclosed building, already having existing HVAC, electrical, lighting, we would have a fully enclosed climate controlled facility.
Okay, makes sense. Nice.
Strong population here. Oh, go ahead, Manpreet.
Yeah, sorry. Just wanted to go back to your climate control comment over there. So you're saying that there is some leeway with the climate control units that the market can absorb.
Correct, because we'd be offering a product that's not vastly represented. In a stabilized market, we'll see up to a 1-to-1 ratio of climate controlled to non-climate controlled. If you get to 3-to-1, 4-to-1 north of that, then you can tell that, hey, there's not a huge representation, there's likely a demand, and that, this being in Colorado with cold winters, humid summers, that's going to be an appealing product for most people looking for self-storage.
Got it. So over here, the ratio was 1:0.5 or?
Yeah, 0.5% of the market was represented as climate controlled. So in Radius, I can pull the analytics and we can see how much square foot per capita is non-climate controlled and how much is climate controlled. The 8.8 and the 10 are just the total mix of all units against the population.
Okay.
Great questions. Love the engagement here today, guys. Strong population, cresting over 100,000 on the 5 mile with really steep growth, particularly on that 5 mile radius at 5% with such a large population size. So a lot of growth here. This is another signal that despite saturation, there will be increased demand because the area is growing, the population is growing. If no new units were built in the market, that square foot per capita would continue to dwindle down to an unsaturated point. Another advantageous part of this, median household income in the mid 70s, renter and multifamily occupied in the 30% is like lukewarm. Once we see anything north of 40, especially 50% of renter occupied multifamily, this will suggest that that existing population would have an even more increased demand versus just another area with the same population and less renters and or multifamily. Strike price for this property initially at 8.2 million. This is just a straightforward model based on the interior climate controlled of the Lowe's. I did not render in there anything as far as vehicle storage, pad site development, etc. So, as we go into negotiations, we'll look at and see, hey, if we need to try to elevate the price, meet the seller where they're at and we feel good about the deal, we'll look into things like vehicle storage and pad site development to help bolster the cost. But with more complexity comes more challenges as far as approvals from the city, raising money for investors. So we always try to take a simple approach, see if the existing business of self-storage can stand alone before proceeding with other opportunities. Taking a look at the exterior of the building here, obviously in great condition, just recently vacant. Plenty of signage and frontage on a major causeway. Parking lot stripe and well lit. No major issues with the exterior facade of the building and the asphalt of the parking lot. Two things that can become very expensive very quick. As we go out to a 30,000-foot view here, looking at the location, we can see the site embedded right here. Huge traffic counts along this road here, and then a major freeway or highway 36. We'd love to see both of those because these are going to attract a lot of passer buyers and help with that lease up or absorption of those units entering into the market. Other supporting retailers like Home Depot, Costco, et cetera, are going to also attract more people into the area, which will give us more visibility. Off to the right here, we can see a residential golf course, which is just a signal to the affluency of the area, the high median household income, and surrounded by the site is residential. From our market research, we do know that the left-hand side here, the west side, is under immense development. So they're continuing to push out building new homes, which is leading to that population growth that we saw in the analytics. So just at a quick view, this is a very appealing opportunity. Shifting into the rates here, we can see on the market average $217 for a 10 by 10. Which is off the charts. If we're above 150, we're getting excited. We know that we can carry the CapEx of the conversion. Every dollar after that's going to help with the purchase price. Typically, the higher the rate, the more expensive the land is for the development. So they kind of balance out hand in hand. The other thing to notice here, if we look over the last 4 months, we can actually see those rates increasing from 202 up to 233, which is another good sign indicating that there's increased demand and a lot of facilities are at capacity because when they are hitting that physical occupancy, they'll continue to raise rates to maximize that economic capacity. Looking at direct comps, just like we do with multifamily here, I'll look at like for like and try to get as close as possible. These are within 2 miles of the existing facility. We can see rates as high as 259, 198, and 219. For the underwriting, I went ahead with the area average of 217 to be conservative. Likely we could fetch higher than that, but we like to go in there conservative, make sure we feel good about the pricing in case there's any kind of competitor intrusion, anything that might offset that lease up period. So that way there's room for still generating generous returns despite any kind of pressure test that we might face. Jumping into underwriting, we can see the total units at 881 for that 130,000 square feet of the interior space, the applicable rates for each unit and the unit mix off here on the right. And
how'd you get to 881 units?
So I have a calculator that I built out in a spreadsheet. I'll take the square footage of the building, subtract out circulation for hallways and the office space, and that'll render, a leasable square footage. From that, I'll just divide it out by the square footage of each unit, and I plug in a percentage. So in this case, 18, 33, 31, and 18%. And it'll just, based on the equations I put in there, pop out, okay, here's how many of each unit to add up to the total square footage of the building.
And what's the general circulation loss?
Conservatively, 20%, although it can be lower than that, 15%, potentially even 12.5%. Things that will impact that would be the size of the unit. So as units become larger, there's less need for circulation.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect.
As far as additional CapEx, we can see 4.8 million earmarked here for the interior unit conversions. This is $35 a square foot for the interior of that Lowe's. It being sprinklered, well lit, in great condition. There's not a ton of CapEx we need to sink into it outside of building the physical storage units that we associate with the roll-up doors, the fencing on the roof to make sure you can't go from one unit to the next, et cetera, et cetera. As we expand out to other models to include pad site development, vehicle storage, there'll be additional CapEx, but also additional revenue to offset that. The returns realized with this pencil price of 8.2 million would be 30% and a 4x multiplier. So really strong returns and 100% refi capital after about 3.5 years reaching stabilization and refinancing. Any questions on this property? I'm gonna start pulling up the next one.
So are you offering their ask, or is that like significantly below? What are you offering?
They did not disclose their asking price on this property. I
Okay.
did speak to the broker. They've entertained an offer at 14 million.
Okay.
So we'd have to come up, but that doesn't deter me because there is so much of that land, the 13 acres that we could utilize for either vehicle storage and pad site development. Vehicle storage is going to be the easiest and probably
Like
best.
vehicle, you mean like IOS, like industrial outdoor storage, or more like just a
boat
parking
and
lot?
RV. Boat and RV.
Okay, boat and RV storage. Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
we're looking not for like we don't want distressed cars, beat up junkers. We want, we put in our lease agreements that it has to be 2015 or newer in good condition. So this wouldn't be a place for you to just dump a vehicle, but rather
Sure.
store some sort of recreational vehicle, things of that nature.
Okay.
And that's most advantageous for our business because it goes hand in hand with self-storage. Getting a city to agree to an enclosed self-storage facility is a little bit easier than vehicle storage because it looks and feels like a retail building. When you start putting vehicle storage in the parking lot, they get a little bit leery.
Okay.
That would be our first attempt in discussions with the jurisdiction, followed up with the pad site development.
Yep.
Pad sites are very advantageous, but
Yep, of
that
course.
requires us to build it out, lease it up potentially, if not sell it off.
100%. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've done one pad site, and then on the industrial outdoor storage. So I have an industrial background, so I've worked on several of those projects. But I have I haven't done boat and RV storage. So the company I work for actually is one of the largest boat and RV developers in the Southeast. But I haven't seen any of that stuff.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, when you get to work with industrial buildings, the zoning's a little bit more advantageous
Yeah, no,
because it allows for those type of storage.
Yeah, exactly. No, they would never allow industrial iOS on this site, and if they did, that would be a huge outrage for all the community members here. So,
Yep. So we'll see as we get further along with discussions with the broker and seller, and as well as proceeding with discussions with the city. But
That makes
on its face, it looks appealing.
Yeah.
Our final property for today, guys, is going to be 31700 Grape Street, Lake Elsinore, California. So this is down south near San Diego. Nice little pocket down there. This is an existing Walmart. It is vacant, as I mentioned earlier, because they have relocated to create a super center, a larger Walmart in that area. Building was 126,000 square feet. So similar to that Lowe's we just looked at here, sitting on 12.39 acres. That actually might be a mistake there. The broker had it listed 18.8, but either way, very large lot to work with, C2 zoning. Again, so we'd have to get a conditional use permit or rezoning to utilize this for self-storage. Speaking with the broker, I did encounter a challenge. Walmart has traditionally sold these properties, but in the last 60 days has moved towards a hold, meaning that they're looking to lease this up to another retailer. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not willing to sell it. It just means that I've asked the broker to go back to Walmart and say, hey, are you guys open to a transaction? Which is what they originally listed it as, rather than just a lease up. Depending on our offer, it may make sense for Walmart. It just depends. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking at the KPIs for this one, just came on the market 58 days ago. This is another example. Both the properties this week we reviewed had high saturation. That 0.5% is a mistake. I apologize. But 9.9 on the 3 mile, 8.2 on the 5. It made it through underwriting because of the rates. And again, we can see aggressive rent growth, population growth. The other advantage is it's not just adjacent to Lake Elsinore, but several other large bodies of water. So this model was developed with vehicle storage. So if we have a saturated self-storage market, but we're able to offer vehicle storage in tandem, this kind of helps offset some of that saturation because people will come there for both their vehicle and self-storage versus having it at two different lots. Strong population going over 100,000 the 5 mile. Again, 10% growth and 7% growth. So it's a very big expanding area. Strong median household incomes. So we can offer that covered vehicle storage. Low renter occupied multifamily in the area, but that's just specific to Lake Elsinore. The strike price for this one came in at 10.9. Again, they do not have an asking price or a listed price for this asset. Exterior facade, parking lot, all in great condition because it's just recently vacant, but it's been well maintained by Walmart. They have great landscaping within the parking lot, well lit, everything that we would need, so we don't have to afford that in the CapEx. Location of the site here, we can see it's off of a major freeway with huge frontage here, so that's going to help definitely with the lease up and marketing, just from a visibility standpoint and ease of access. We can see the large lot it sits on here with some pad sites on the outer banks of it, but just a ton of land to utilize with it, even in the back here, where this could be another opportunity for additional vehicle storage. We have a vacant building here. This is actually a Spirit Halloween, so it's only in use part of the year. And I'm currently trying to look at that property and see if I can find the owner and maybe even make a pitch for an off-market opportunity based on that being a vacant warehouse as well. Let's see. It does not depict it in this photo, but as you zoom out, this is embedded in a large residential area as well. Taking a look at the competitor landscape here, the first thing that really pops out is all the blue dots. That represents new builds, whether it's planning or permitted. Dark blue indicate under construction. Within our 5 mile radius, we can see 2 new builds surrounding Lake Elsinore. Due to the large population growth, you can see an immense amount of new self-storage going into the area. So despite saturation, the signal says, hey, there is a lot of opportunity in this market. It's something we want to look closer at and then move to what we call a feasibility study. Essentially what that is taking that square foot per capita, breaking it apart into the individual properties and discounting it based on distance, age of the asset, offerings, to get a new square foot per capita and a more accurate assessment of demand. Taking a look at the rental rates globally, we can see 185 is the average. A little bit of sparseness in the monthly rental rates here. So there is a low representation of climate control in this market. So again, gives us a competitive advantage. It has been increasing over the last 3 months. For the purposes of underwriting, I went ahead and used extra space storage conservatively at 149. Built into the model here, you guys will see as before the standard unit mix for the self-storage, and then a 50-50 divide of both canopy covered parking and uncovered boat and RV. We have a 12 by 24, 12 by 36, and a 12 by 48 space. And we'll be utilizing 15% of that existing land minus the asset itself or the building itself for the vehicle storage. All in, we'd have 1,200 units between both the vehicle and self-storage. Down in the underwriting, we can see 1.7 million at $20 a square foot for the canopy parking, another 4.4 million for the interior unit conversion of the self-storage unit, generating these returns over here on the right. So definitely a great opportunity here. It's going to come down to the seller's motivation, whether they're open to the offer that we give them, as well as working with the jurisdiction to allow for both indoor self-storage and outdoor vehicle storage.
So I saw the purchase price there was 10.9. Like, what do you think the seller's guidance there is?
They haven't provided it because when I initially spoke with the broker, they're like, hey, they've changed their mind. They're looking for a lease versus a sale. So their first step was like, let me go back to both my senior broker as well as the seller and say, like, is this a possibility? And at that point, we'd look for price guidance. For a lot of these major assets, they're not going to give it. They're going to want you to come in. And if it doesn't meet their need, they're like, nope, we're good. then you got to come back in higher. That's one of the challenges, because if you come in too low, they're not going to counter.
Yeah, of
So-
course. No, I get that. Do you
Yeah.
know what they're trying to lease at?
I didn't bother retaining the cost per square footage on the retail lease, because at that point it wouldn't be worth it to us. That
No,
would,
no, I was just curious in terms of that would give you some insight in terms of what they're trying to.
oh, their evaluation.
Value.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. That's a good
I can
point.
pull up CoStar real quick and check for that building if you'd like.
Yeah, let's get a comp based on what they can rent it for.
Let me pull it up real quick. What was the address?
It is 31700 Grape Street.
Baker
That's it.
Street?
No, grape, like the fruit.
Oh, great, great. Sorry. I
Yep,
misheard that
Grape
completely.
Street, Lake Elsinore, California. So it's on the screen now.
Sorry, my CoStar is taking a second for it.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, can you say that address again?
31700 Grape Street, Lake Elsinore, California, 92532.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's previously listed, lease.
Great call, guys. Thanks, Steven. Sorry, guys, I'm just gonna bail out. So, Nick, I'll look forward to the invite for the weekend call.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Honestly, not a lot of insight here in terms of average sales. Like, I mean, I see average sales price per square foot is 339, but obviously that's not for big box. It's gonna be for it's gonna be for much smaller spaces. So I don't really know. Yeah, this is not, it's not super helpful.
Yeah, and then, if it was leased up, obviously the value of it would be much greater than if it's a vacant box being sold.
Yep.
So
I mean, there was a similar property sold at $100 a foot back in March 2022. So my best
that-
guess is that
and that was sold vacant.
that was Galleria at Tyler. Oh, that was like a regional department store,
But
super regional.
that there was not any NOI on the property at $100 a square foot.
I don't think so. I mean, my guess is you're probably in that same range. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
I would say based on my experience, probably around 14 million for this type of property. We've looked at Sears, other big boxes of this nature. That's kind of the numbers they're around, 12, 13, 14 million. So $100 a square foot at 126,000 square feet puts us at that 12.6 number. So probably pretty
I
accurate.
mean, yeah, just on the land value, this seems like it's worth it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we'll come in low. If we're only $1 million or $2 million off, maybe they'll say, hey, well, this is what we're willing to do it for. More likely hop on the call with us and kind of vet it out some more.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so there's like an adjacent parcel, I guess, that the building is connected to. You said it was a previously, or is it Spirit Halloween?
Yeah, so it's only utilized obviously during that season. And I've seen a lot of those buildings throughout California, and they'll have other short-term leases that'll come in there. So that one actually could be even more appealing because we get at a lower cost basis.
Makes sense. I get it. Okay. I'm curious, if I want to present a deal, how does that work in general?
Christina, will you drop your email into the chat? Just shoot her an email. If you have leads that you want to be reviewed, we do partnerships. We have different ways of working with everyone who attends this call. We're happy to provide insight into whatever you're working on. And then if you want to run a presentation or anything like that, shoot Christina a note and she'll forward it on to Steven and I, and then we'll take a review and go from there.
Like if I just want to, like, let's say share my screen right now and then go through some numbers. Do you guys do that too, or is that generally not the process?
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
Oh, sweet. Okay. I'm down. Do you guys have time right now, or should we schedule for next week?
I don't
We're
personally.
at the top of the hour now, so I think both Nick and I have to run to our next meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, we can either schedule something ad hoc or we can have something reviewed during one of these CCRE calls.
Let's just do it next week, and there's no rush. So,
Okay,
cool. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
my pleasure. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Bye.
All right, well,
Take
that's
care.
the conclusion of our call for today. Thanks for everyone for joining. Have a great day, and we'll see you next Thursday. Ciao.